your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We have talked about a whole bunch of interesting stories today. Special thanks to NBA scout and lifelong Cleveland sports fan Zach Barris for talking a little bit about the brackets in the NBA. We've talked about Deshaun Jackson and Ray Rice. Deshaun Jackson cut from his team, and he's got just a mountain of circumstantial evidence linking him with gangs and people that have been accused of murder, and the side story of that his work ethic and his attitude have been a problem, and so the Eagles cut him. And then Ray Rice is on video, the running back of the Baltimore Ravens, dragging his unconscious girlfriend out of an elevator. That doesn't look good. He's been charged with felonious assault. Talked about a whole bunch of stories, so please make sure you check them all out, and they will all be posted on thenewamericanmedia.com. Please check them out on YouTube, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia, and click subscribe. On Facebook, do a search for The New American Media, and like the page, with spaces in between, The New American Media. And then on Twitter, we're at American_media_. So this one is from SB Nation, explaining what the Northwestern College Football Union decision means. So I'm going to break down this story, and I'm going to ask you, do you agree or do you disagree that student athletes should be paid? Because there's a very important, interesting story that just happened this week, and I want to break it down for you. So, Kane Coulter and the Northwestern football team can unionize. What does this mean? And what happens next for the Wildcats and elsewhere? On Wednesday afternoon, National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, Region 13 Director Peter Snug, issued a ruling granting Northwestern football players the right to unionize. The decision is a bomb to the heart of college football's amateurism rules and could lead to significant change to college athletics in general. What did the NLRB say? And what players had to do to win? So in order to find out that the Northwestern players could form a union, Orr had to find that the players were employees of the university. An employee is a person who, 1, is under contract of hire to 2, perform services for another, 3, subject to the employer's control, and 4, in return for payment. So without the 1, 2, 3, 4, an employee is a person who is under contract of hire to perform services for another, subject to the employer's control, and in return for payment. Almost nobody, this author included, over here at sbnation.com, thought the players could meet this standard. To do so, they would have to show that they were hired, controlled, and paid by Northwestern. From inside the system, finding that players are being hired by coaches and paid in scholarship money feels absurd. Orr, though, is not in the system. Orr's opinion reads like that of someone who has not watched college football for 1 minute of his life. He was told the basic premise for the sport's existence and amateurism rules, and rejected all of the inherent contradictions. Orr begins by detailing the life of a Northwestern scholarship football player, and how it differs from that of a typical student. During August training camp, players engage in 50 to 60 hours of football-related work per week, and are subject to a strict itinerary for up to 16 hours a day. During the regular season, players devote 40 to 50 hours per week to football, including travel, and again are subject to strict rules, to a strict schedule of activities. The director also points out that many of the activities required of football players, such as training meetings, travel, 7-on-7 drills, and film study, are not included in the NCAA's limit of 20 hours per week for, quote, countable athletically related activities, end quote. If the team makes a bowl game, the season extends into December. Players are still expected to go through their full weekly routine. There is a brief break near the holidays, but players are required to be back by Christmas morning and must provide position coaches with their flight itineraries showing their intent to return on time before being allowed to leave. For road games, players are on a strict schedule from early Friday morning through late Saturday that includes travel, team meetings, and training. In a footnote, the director criticizes the fact that while the players devoted more than 24 hours on Friday and Saturday to travel and football-related activities, this only constituted 4.8 countable hours under the NCAA's guidelines. Northwestern players are permitted to spend 2 to 3 hours studying while traveling as long as they, quote, get their mind right to get ready to play, end quote, per head coach Pat Fitzgerald. Optional off-season workouts during off weeks are monitored by the Player Leadership Council for attendance, and team training personnel monitor mandatory off-season workouts. Players spend 15 to 20 hours per week during the off-season on football activities. Spring practice requires 20 to 25 hours per week of practice and film study. So, what the NLRB declared, where Orr hammers Northwestern, is on the priority of football over academics. According to his findings, players are not permitted to take classes that conflict with practice, and scholarship players cannot leave practice early to make a class. Northwestern provided plentiful examples of how its emphasis on academics, including holding a bus back to allow players to take a quiz before going to a game at Iowa, and prohibiting players from missing more than 5 classes due to football in a term. But the scheduling issues, combined with the relative time commitment, was the controlling factor for the director. He also found ample control by Northwestern over its players' lives. Freshman and sophomore football players are required to live in dorms, and upperclassmen living off campus have to submit their leases to Fitzgerald for approval. The athletic department must approve any outside employment and monitors their work. Players are required to give detailed information about their cars to the athletic department. Their cars. Players are restricted from what they can post on the internet, Facebook, Twitter, etc., and must accept friend requests from Fitzgerald or other coaches so that their posts can be monitored. Players cannot profit off of their likeness or image and are required to sign a release allowing Northwestern and the Big Ten to use their name, likeness, and image. And in parentheses here, this is the O'Bannon suit making its way into other realms. And when you've successfully decoupled athletics from academics, there we are, finding that those players are employees is not a big leap. To Orr, number 1, the letter of intent in scholarship offer is the employment contract. 2, the hours of practice and play that generates millions of dollars of revenue for the school are the employer's benefits. 3, the coach's rules are the control. And 4, the scholarship itself is the pay. Players are employees, and it didn't take a stretch of logic to get there. They have must-reads. Other articles here. The NCAA's hilarious, wrong, dishonest response. And no, the union's not about pay for play. Continuing the article here, Northwestern had argued that a previous case was the proper precedent. In a prior decision, the NLRB had rejected a unionization attempt by graduate students working as teaching and research assistants at Brown University. In that decision, the NLRB found that the employees were primarily students, their roles were tied to their education, their supervisors were school faculty, and their wages were the same financial support given to those who were not working those jobs. Because the graduate students were students first and employees second, they were not employees. Orr rejected the argument here, and in doing so, laid bare what he deemed the fallacy at the heart of the sport, that football has anything at all to do with academics. He held that Northwestern football players who spend 40 to 60 hours per week on football duties during the season and repeatedly adjust their class schedules to make time for football activities are not primarily students, and that their compensation, scholarships, is not financial aid. Wow, I find that interesting. It's not financial aid to get a free ride for $80,000. It's not a free ride, you're playing sports, but I played sports for free in high school. Actually, I had to pay to play. I even forget how much it was. It was a couple of bucks. It was, I recall multiple hundreds of dollars I had to pay for equipment, and you had to pay to play. Just horrible. So Orr is saying that scholarships are not financial aid. Yeah, well, guess what? I graduated 2001. Here we are in 2014, and I'm still paying student loans. So, yeah, it's financial aid. Anyway. The scholarships are provided not for the players' academic performance. In fact, many of the players would not even be admitted to Northwestern were it not for their football prowess, but for their performance of services for Northwestern on the field of play. By splitting football from academics, Orr has made every college football player the equivalent of every other student who is bussing tables or working in a call center to pay for school. And that is revolutionary. So what happens next for Northwestern football? The effects at Northwestern are immediate. The NLRB has directed an election among only Northwestern scholarship football players who have not exhausted their eligibility. Ironically, that will likely exclude Union movement leader and former Wildcats quarterback Kane Coulter from voting, as he was a senior in 2013. That's actually really interesting. The results of the election will determine whether the football team will be represented by the College Athletes Players Association. A Sports Illustrated legal expert said that they are nearly certain to get the number of votes needed to establish the union. From there, the union would be entitled to collectively bargain with Northwestern over the players' benefits. NCAA regulations will likely throw a kink into this, as additional benefits could make players ineligible to participate. Wow. Okay, that's one biggie. Let me tell you that again. From there, the union would be entitled to collectively bargain with Northwestern over the players' benefits. NCAA regulations will likely throw a kink into this, as additional benefits could make players ineligible to participate. So here here's your money to play football, but the NCAA is now banning you from playing football because you're earning money, thus ineligible. Oh, boy. I feel like you're defining what the definition of the word is. Northwestern has already announced its intention to appeal to the National Labor Relations Board proper, where it could receive a more favorable decision. If Northwestern loses at the board, it could enter the federal courts. The school could delay any negotiations until the appeal is resolved, but that progress could take them through the 2014 season. If it agrees to negotiate, Northwestern would cut off its right to appeal in the courts. What does it mean for your favorite team? At other private schools like Notre Dame, USC, and Vanderbilt, players could copy Northwestern's model and work toward unionization, citing Wednesday's decision as precedent. Directors in other districts are not required to follow Orr's decision, though, so repeated unionization could lead to different results across the country. State schools like Alabama, Ohio State, and Texas. Can I get an OH? Are not governed by the NLRB, and its decisions are not enforceable against state school football programs. State labor laws would apply. In right-to-work states, unionization would be a non-starter. How well it would work elsewhere will depend on each state's laws and regulations. How does it impact other sports? The NLRB's decision is limited to Northwestern football players at the moment. It could potentially be extended to successful private school basketball programs, looking at you, Duke. But its application to non-revenue sports could be tricky. Yeah. Okay, they bring up a couple things I had mentioned in the beginning. I hadn't had a chance to really properly go through this, but they're getting into one of the things I was curious about. One of the key components of the regional director's finding that football players were employees was the fact that football generates revenue for Northwestern, making it easy to say the players' actions had value. It is much more difficult to find the value in non-revenue sports. Does the notoriety of Northwestern's successful lacrosse program provide benefit to the school? What about a middle-of-the-pack wrestling program, or a basketball team that has never made the NCAA tournament? Any attempt at unionization by non-revenue student athletes could be much more difficult. The Title IX implications are unclear. If Northwestern agrees to negotiate with its football players and provides additional benefits or scholarships to cover the full cost of attendance, someone is going to argue that the preferential treatment is a violation of the landmark Civil Rights Act, Title IX. On the other hand, given the finding that those football players are employees and not students, Northwestern could argue that benefits conveyed to football players aren't covered by Title IX at all. Wow. And this is a tricky story. Just a very tricky story. They have really opened up Pandora's box with this one. I can say that when I went to Bowling Green State University, I was the concert director. It was what was it, my junior year? Yeah, it was my junior year. And actually, here in the studio, I'm looking at it. MTV Campus Invasion featuring Bush with special guest Moby, presented by the University Activities Organization, or UAO, at Bowling Green State University. that was interesting because I was taking, I believe it was 15 credit hours. It was a full course load. I don't think it was 18. I think it was a full course load, 15 credit hours. 5 classes, 3 credit hours each, something like that. And I volunteered for the concert committee. Well, they gave me an operating budget of $9,785 to start. And I had to do budget reallocations, co-sponsorships, begging and pleading, kicking and screaming to find 40 grand laying around our school. Right here at the bottom of this poster for that concert, it says co-sponsored by the Student Union, SAA, RSA, and HSA. Was that the Honor Student Association, Resident Student Association, what is that? The SAA, Alumni Association? And so we had 50 grand. And I think the concert was 55 grand, and the final version was signed by the... But I submitted the bid to the agency to get into the negotiations to try to route our concert, or our college into the tour. And then they finished negotiating it, and it was done. So anyway, cut to the chase. The concert ended up costing, all in all, somewhere around the ballpark of $100,000. We sold over 4,300 tickets, sold the show out, and we got a collection, we got a commission off of all the merchandise sales. I think it was 15%. Anyway, I think how it worked out was we made $15,000 on the year. So not only did I find 40 grand laying around the school, but they let me take out a loan on 50 grand to make 115 grand to pay back the 55 grand in the operating expenses. And I felt then that I should have been paid. I was working 20 to 40 hours a week, legitimately 20 to 30 extra hours a week in between all my classes and everything else I had to do. I couldn't work a job. Where am I going to find time between a full workload and putting in part-time work hours volunteering at this place for this organization, UAO? I couldn't work a part-time job, but I was doing something through volunteer that was generating revenue for the school. That show made money. And I felt like that position, if the concert turned a profit, the concert director should have been paid. So when I hear about Northwestern football becoming a union, there are so many questions. So does the women's volleyball team get the same pay? Title IX says everyone has to be treated equally. What happens there? Are they generating revenue? Does it make a difference? Are they going to get a cut of the merchandise sales? That can be split out to the students? I don't know. You got a lot of people making a lot of money. Yeah, but they're getting a free education. Yeah, they are. It's a very complicated subject. Because, yeah, I mean, you go to a very cheap school and you're spending 40 grand. You go to another school, you're spending 80 or 120 grand. There is value in that. But LeBron James totally skipped college and jumped to the NBA. Guess what? He did all right. Kobe Bryant, did he do okay? Kevin Garnett, did he do okay? Yeah, they did okay. But for all of them, you had way more busts that were high school to the pros. You had a bunch of busts. They busted so bad, I don't even have the names off the top of my head. I'm sure you know a few of them. But if you jump to the NBA as a number one pick, how much you making? A couple $1 million? Yeah, give me the couple million. I'll find a way to pay for $120,000 worth of college sometime down the road. Let me just make sure my knees hold up and I don't hurt myself in college before I can get there. Why should age prohibit you from entering the workforce? That's a legitimate question. Should age prohibit you from entering the workforce? I say no. I mean, if you're 18 and you want to go play in the pros, maybe you're not ready. But you're young and you're healthy, and if someone's willing to pay you. I had an economics teacher who also, coincidentally, used to be my football coach. And this was right around the time Shaquille O'Neal signed with the Lakers, I believe, for $100 million or something like that. The question was asked, is Shaquille O'Neal worth $100 million? Yes or no, and why? No, he's not worth $100 million. Why? Well, because, but wrong. Is Shaquille O'Neal? Yes. Why? Well, because if you add up the merchandise sales and the revenue last year versus the revenue increase this year, and if that equates to 100, wrong. And everybody had a oh, I got it. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Yes, wrong. Because you guys done? This is an economics class. The question was, is Shaquille O'Neal worth $100 million? The answer? Yes. The why is the important part. Why? Because somebody was willing to pay him that. And that's economics. If someone is willing to pay you, then you're worth it. So, if someone wants to pay you out of high school, why are you making hundreds of millions of dollars for the NCAA when you could be earning a living? And if you go make a few $1 million, guess what? You can go to college. You'll have the money at that point. Now, will college and a good teacher a good head coach and a good group of assistant coaches mixed in with structure and discipline, will that help mold a young man? Title IX. A young college student into perhaps a better, more responsible, well-rounded adult? You damn straight it might. You are absolutely correct. It might make them a better person. But who gets to force them to do that? What right do they have to say that they can't work? So I'm very conflicted on this. I totally get why players should earn money. Yeah, I did. I actually had scholarship offers to certain places, mostly Division I AA, 2, Division III schools. Yeah, I was a very good football player on a great team with great coaches. But I was undersized, 5'10", 188, I think. Of course, in the program, it listed me as 5'11" and a half. Thank you very much. They must have been with cleats and helmet on. But I did. I had offers to go places. Some places, we'll pay you $10,000 a year. I was in contract negotiations as a 17-year-old. Yeah, we'll give you a scholarship for $10,000 a year. I'm like, wow, well, that sounds good. How much is it to go there? Oh, it's $22,000 a year. I'm like, whoa, yeah, mommy and daddy aren't rich. I don't have a trust fund. Nah, can't make that happen. I had options to go play football. I actually had the option to walk on to my school. That was right before Urban Meyer took over. Yes, Urban Meyer, formerly of the Florida Gators, formerly of the Utah football program, currently of the Ohio State Buckeyes. He started as a head coach at Bowling Green State University, a Falcon. But, I had the opportunity to walk on, and I just said, no, I would rather get the college experience. I don't want to play, 40 to 60 hours a week of football, and I did that in high school, and I loved it. Loved it. I still miss that competition and structure and challenge and satisfaction after a game well played. I miss that. I made the decision not to push for it. So I did not. But because I wasn't doing that, I was able to go back home and I was a server. And I could make money on the weekends to help pay some for books and bills and food and going out money and clothing. Yes, I kind of worked while I was in college. Then as a junior, senior, I was working around town and eventually graduated and worked in town for 4 more years while my rock band played out at the clubs in Ohio and Michigan and St. Louis. And wherever we could, really. But that's not the point. The point is, I see why these players would want to get paid, and I understand with the revenue coming in, hey, there is a ton of money coming in here. How about a little bit of a stipend? Something. Can I get $100 a week so I can go see a movie and go out and go bowling? Go see a movie? Go get a pair of jeans? Something. I mean, every year you hear about improprieties with the NCAA. I mean, it was Terrell Pryor and a few other players on Ohio State. Was it DeVere Posey? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. All got busted. They were signing autographs on the side and selling their jersey and trading them for tattoos. Well, can I get $100 if I want to get a tattoo? I'll save it for a couple weeks and I'll get a $400 tattoo. I think tattoos are a big, stupid waste of money. I think they're kind of cool, but I don't have one. I haven't found something that I want to put on my body for the rest of my life. But whatever. You want jeans? You want pizza? You want a movie? You want to go to the go-kart track? You want to go play putt-putt? Go play laser tag? I don't know. What do kids do these days? They play that laser tag or the hula hoop? Pac-Man video games? I'm paraphrasing a line from Basketball with Trey Parker and Matt Stone from South Park. Watch the movie. It's hilarious. With Bob Costas. Anyway, with all the money coming in, I mean, why can't these kids have a couple of bucks walking around money? You get a union, though? Look at Detroit. What happens when unions take over? Keep asking for more, keep asking for more, keep asking for more, keep asking for more, keep asking for more. Bankrupt. There's something in between non-unionized being totally shut out of everything decent and killing the goose that lays the golden egg. There's something in there. I don't really know what the libertarian line on unions are. Maybe it's that we all fend for ourselves and we all negotiate based on our value. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not certain on that. I know the neocon conservative line is, unions are bad. Burr, 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 burr. And I know the liberal Democrat line is, unions are great. Burr, 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 burr. And like I said, I think it's somewhere in between. You don't want slave labor and child labor. I mean, but seriously, you sign NAFTA, you sign all these goofy trade agreements with other countries, and what happens? Companies in America close up shop. They go overseas to a place where they're paying their people $1.15 a day. All the middle-class workers no longer have jobs. They stand in lines looking for EBT cards and handouts. There aren't enough jobs. We won't even get into illegal immigration, flooding 15 to 30 million people into the workforce saying, I'll work for cheaper. So a lot of the people in the middle are getting squeezed, and those jobs aren't there, so they're sinking. A lot of people in the middle class are just sinking. Add to it the Federal Reserve devaluing the currency, so $100 won't buy you what $100 is supposed to buy you, and it's sure as hell not getting you what $100 could get you 100 years ago. That's not artificial. I'm sorry. That's not organic. That's not a natural thing to have inflation. It's manipulated by the banksters. They want that because they make more money that way. But I'm slightly diverging off my point. Okay, so the so the college football players, the NCAA football players, generate a whole bunch of revenue and they get paid. They just call it $100 a week for every player. Title IX. Are you familiar with Title IX? Here, let me pull this up so I can give you a precise definition of what Title IX is. Okay, from Wikipedia. Let's see if I can... Title IX is a portion of the Education Amendments of 1972, Public Law... Equal Opportunity in Education Act. Okay, it states in part that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So, I mean, this article was explaining the difference between the Ohio states, the state schools, and the private universities. But at these private universities, what happens? Yeah, it says state schools like Alabama, Ohio State, Texas are not governed by the NLRB. Decisions are not enforceable against state school football programs. State labor laws would apply. This just gets very complicated very fast. But I mean, what about a cut of the merchandise or something? If the women's basketball team has a video game that sells, then the players depicted in the video games get a portion of the proceeds. Ta-da! Yeah, but what about Johnny Football? What about Johnny Football? What about Johnny Manziel? Should he get a larger share since he's a superstar? More than the golfer? Or the person on the wrestling team or the tennis team? And I played tennis in high school too. It's a lot of fun. So what happens there? Do you discriminate on the players? If but how do you make EA Sports? We keep your money. What if? I mean, they're using the players' likenesses in these football games, and they're selling and making millions of dollars off them. Why shouldn't the players be entitled to a cut of that? Well, the money that they get, it pays for the stadiums that allows them the opportunity to play on the field, which gets them a scholarship, which gives them a free education. They're getting plenty off of it. I don't know about that. I think there's still a way for the rich people to stay rich. And the poor kids to get a taste of the pie without the whole system imploding. But when you bring the law in, oh man, this is going to get dicey. So my question to you is, do you agree or disagree that student athletes should be paid? This whole Northwestern case is just, this is the first flick of the finger. What's the sound effect for that? Oh, that was a good sound effect. Ready? You flicked a domino, and they're all starting to cascade. They're all starting to move forward right now. You flicked a domino. This is going to be a very interesting story to cover. So we want your comments. Do you agree or disagree that student athletes should be paid? Because that's going to be the goal of the union. They want to get that money. So leave your comments on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, youtube.com/The New American Media. Leave your comments there. You can leave your comments on our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. You can leave your comments on our Twitter feed. We're at American_media_. And on Facebook, do a search for The New American Media with spaces in between. And click on it so that you like our page. So you search The New American Media and you like our page. It's been a very interesting show. A lot of interesting stories. Kobe Bryant's comments on Trayvon Martin. Just really not understanding why the Heat put on hoodies and didn't wait until the facts of the case were in. Talked about Deshaun Jackson being cut by the Eagles. Was it just because of his work ethic and general demeanor, or was it because of all the mountains of circumstantial gang-related evidence, including 2 people that are convicted of murder or accused of murder? One was convicted, spending 25 years to life in prison. Ray Rice knocking his girlfriend out, allegedly being charged with felonious assault. We'll have to put that video up when we post these of Ray Rice doing, this girl's lifeless body, just dragging her, and then her feet are still in the elevator, and he moves her feet away, and a security guy comes over, and he's like, oh, man. You see him, kind of throw his head back, like, what? Yeah, what? Dude, you're walking around, you're not quite walking around with a passed out girl. Elevator door opens, and this girl's out cold. What happened, buddy? Roddy White promises season tickets to a fan if Mercer beats Duke. Guess what? It happened. We commented about that. And, of course, special thanks to NBA scout Zach Barris for joining the program to talk some March Madness and NBA. So I'm going to take off for now. Coming up in about a month and a couple of days, we will be done. We will complete our 3 years here at the New American Media. We'll have a 3-year party. you may send your birthday cakes to the New American Media. Media? Media, I say. The New American Media, care of I like cake.gov. Anyway, yeah. I appreciate all of you guys listening, and I appreciate all the comments. I try to respond when I can. There's a few interesting stories. We still don't know for certain what happened to Flight 370, so if you get the chance, take a listen. We did a radio show with John B. Wells a couple of weeks ago. It's on our homepage, it's on Twitter feed, it's on Facebook, it's on our YouTube channel. That might be easiest on YouTube. And our homepage is newamericanmedia.com. Leave your comments. It's just... when the NSA is spying on everybody without cause, blatantly violating our Fourth Amendment protections to privacy, probable cause, how do you lose a 777? I ain't buying it. Not by a long shot. Something is up here. So we talk with John B. Wells, formerly at Coast to Coast AM, now of Caravan to Midnight. Check out that show. We got a bunch of stuff. So that's the point. In 3 years, we have an archive of really interesting interviews. Go back, listen to some. Some are timeless. You know, it's the same S, different day. So take a look, take a listen, let me know, and we'll go from there. So thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being here with me on the newamericanmedia.com. I appreciate you. I love you. Peace.
Your guide to the truth. The newamericanmedia.com.